Okay, we're finally getting back to the Traxxas XRT. We have a whole stack of parts here. Let me show you guys what we're working with. So in the previous video, guys, I showed you guys how I wrapped my chassis. We got blue, orange, green, and silver on there. We got the whole chassis done, the battery trays, and we also did the shock towers. In this build, guys, we're going to be using the GPM two-piece diff cases for the front, center, and rear. That's going to be part number XRT011-0R. In a second here, I'm going to show you guys what the differences are, but check this out. These are going to be your front and rear ring and pinion gears by GPM. That's going to be part number XRT1032TS-BK. I'll definitely leave a link in the description below. Now there's a couple of differences here and a couple of reasons why you're going to want to upgrade. I'm not saying that these gears will not last in your truck, but it's definitely worth upgrading to the GPM full diff build for your XRT or your XMAXX. So this is a stock XRT diff or XMAXX diff, and you can see the gears are straight. And guys, I'm not sure what kind of metal this is. It's like pot metal. It is not machined. It's not steel. And well, it doesn't always hold up to those big powered motors. So if you're looking at them side by side, you can tell we got straight gears, which is the stock, and then we have the spiral cut gears, which these are also mod 1.5. Check out the difference. We got straight gears on the stock ring gear, and then this is the GPM ring gear. It is spiral, and let me show you guys how the pinion works. Now, there's your pinion. And you got a front and a rear. They're labeled for you front and rear right there. I'm not sure if you can see that, but you got a little F and a little R. And then it comes with a bag with two bearings and a snap ring. And then once we get to building them, I'll show you guys how I put them together and get that snap ring on after I get the bearing on. Like I said in the beginning of the video, guys, I offer these diffs built as a service, and you can find them on my website. And you can also find all these parts individually on my website as well. Let me show you guys these outdrives by GPM. Part number for those is going to be STXM8039N-BK. So here's your outdrive. They come with screws. They're just not in this package, so you don't see no screws in here. But these are medium carbon steel, and they have a ring around them that is actually welded on. You can see there's their GPM mark right there. We just got these back in stock finally. They're super popular. I'll show you guys what I do to these as well while I'm assembling. These are kind of the last piece that I put on. And yeah, let's start building them, guys. Okay, so before we start building, sorry, I just want to show you guys one more thing. These are going to be the cases I'm using. These are the two-piece case up close. Check that out. Like I said, we're going to be using red, green, and orange. Now these are a little bit more beefy. They are heavier than the one-piece case. I do have some of these in my other trucks, and yeah, for some reason I don't know why GPM did this, but you have to remove these screws and stick these on the ring gear cover, and then you're going to want to use the screws that come with here to hold down this. I'll show you that, guys, when we start building as well. And let me show you guys the awesome feature about these gears, or about these cases, and the PnwRcMadness diff gear spider gear spacers. So we offer these singly as well. You don't have to buy the whole set because it is kind of expensive, but definitely worth it. There are the spider gear spacers. These are 7075 aluminum, and I'm not sure which cases accept these except for the GPM. I know the Trill doesn't accept them, and the stock plastic cases don't accept these spacers because of the little groove right there. I know the center case does, the stock center case does, so there is that. So we're going to be using silver, purple, and orange. First things first, starting off the build, go ahead, grab yourself an inscriber or some sort of blade and mark your cases front, center, and rear. This just helps you figure out where your cases go, mainly just the front and the rear when you take your truck apart and you got things just laying around. But in this case, we got different colors, but still mark them, label them, makes it much easier. So before we start, guys, just make sure you take out the cap heads if you're using these two-piece cases and put the button heads in. And while you're doing that, don't forget you're going to want to use some Loctite. So yeah, here we go. Let's do this. Now, the first step that I like to do is get yourself some udder butter. I don't use anything else but udder butter for all my RC diff builds. Take your O-rings, and this is how I build all of them, guys. I stick them on my screwdriver and I lube them up because these are like X rings. There is grooves on the outside and the inside, so we'll lube up the outside ring. Next thing you're going to do is you're going to take your case and you're going to lube up the ring on the inside, and that's going to act as if we're lubing up the inside of the X ring on the O-ring. On all the cases, and then also your sun gears. I'll show you this up close. So on your O-rings, you're going to take it like that and just lube up the groove. And then on the inside of your sun gears, you're just going to lube up that groove right there. And that's going to make it so that nothing leaks when you go to install your sun gears. There we go. We got the cap heads out. Take out your cap heads, put in your button heads, and then a quick tip, guys. You can take some sort of cap and you can put your Loctite in there, and then you just stick your screw on there and just, it's really quick instead of getting the, and then dabbing it, and yeah. So we're gonna go ahead, finish all this up, and I'll get to the next step here in a second, and that's gonna be putting on the snap ring. So that's what they're gonna look like when they're done, guys. You're gonna have your rounded cap head screws in there, and those are the ones you're going to be, you're going to be taking out your cap heads and installing these rounded screws. So that's what you want it to look like when it's all done. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take these GPM carbon steel center diff shafts and install the GPM carbon steel spider gears. Everything's all lubed up, and then you're going to take your PnwRcMadness spacers. We're going to assemble all these, and we're going to actually build up the center diff first, and I'll tell you why here in a second. I found it most easy. Actually, before I say that, how I do this is what I use for the center diffs. I use 20 million, and I use 60K for the front and rear. But what I find is most easy is take your diff, your silicone lube, and I like to install this into the case before I put the gears in there. And I've gotten it down to where I pretty much know exactly how much to put inside the case. Now, before we lube up the case or put the gears in the case, you're going to want to install your shims. These come with the spider gears. I like to use 3. Make sure those are lubed up. And I use 3 on every single sun gear. Take your lubed up O-ring, and we're going in the center again, guys. Remember, we're working with the center. So there's our center. It's going to spit out a little bit of grease on that side. Take that, and that's where you're going to lube up where your race goes, where your bearing goes. Next, take your 20 million and just stuff it in the case. And take your spider gears, drop them in one at a time. Actually, I guess it'd be 2 at a time. And this is where it's critical. When you lay the next one in there, you want to make sure that your shafts are squared up and locked in together. So this part is super important, guys, before you screw it all together and whatnot, is to make sure those 2 flat spots are lined up. And I'll try to do this in one shot for you guys. I don't think I got it. There we go. I think we might have got it. Nope, not yet. So this is the reason why you guys build the center case first, so you can take your out drives and you can kind of spin things around and to get things nice and seated how they go. Alright, you'll know they're seated once the spacers are a little bit below the case. I can't really show you that on camera very well, but yeah, That's why you call me to build your cases. Now I like to do the same thing for the front and the rear. Get your sun gears in, lube up where the race goes of the bearing, and then we're going to go ahead and fill up the cases before we stick in the sun gears. This is what we're using. We're using Associated 60K front and rear. So the next part of the build is going to be the pinions. They don't come assembled if you guys buy the parts separately. So for example, we're going to take the rear pinion. You're going to want to find something solid. Okay, set it down on, but first take yourself some udder butter before you put your bearing on and your snap ring, and just run it around right there. And what this is going to do, it's going to stop water from intruding into the part, into your cases, and it's also going to prevent the rust. So go ahead and install your bearing. Slip that right on there. And the next thing you're going to do is get your snap ring. Use the residue from your fingers or your, wherever. Put that on there nice and center. And you're going to want to stick this down on a nice solid, like the ground, the concrete. In this case, I'm using a nice solid table. So make sure your snap ring is nice and centered. And then what you're going to grab is I use this 11 or 9/16 deep well socket. And then I smack it on there with my hammer. And there you go, just like that. That ring is on. So not only did you get your ring on, you got the race area where your bearing lays, and you got some udder butter kind of oozing out right there, and that kind of helps the water from protruding in underneath the bearing and all that good stuff, and keeps the bearing from seizing to the shaft and ruining your diffs. So that's definitely awesome stuff right there. That's what I use, guys. So before we assemble this stuff, I like to take the outdrives, and then again udder butter. You got grooves on your outdrives, and what this does is it kills two birds with one stone. You're gonna fill in those grooves, and then when you go to put it all together, it actually fills in the grooves right in there as well. Now this next step, we're going to go ahead and just assemble them up. So here's our gaskets. Make sure you rub a little udder butter on them. This kind of keeps the water out and keeps them from leaking. And we're going to go ahead and start with the center. That way we can use the outdrives to kind of test and make sure everything's freed up and nothing is bound up, and that we're good to go as far as assembling it into the truck. There is the one gear I did not show you yet. You can buy those. You can buy all these parts separately if you'd like. This is the Mod 1.6 1433 tooth gear set. So check that out. You can just put that on your stock truck if you want. It's really no huge difference at all than the other. I forget what tooth it is, 5112. Anyways, next thing you're going to do is just go ahead, Loctite your screws down. Screw that together, test that out, make sure everything's spinning, and then you're good to go to move on to your front and your rear. Here I just like to take a little bit of CalRC Loctite, put it in a cap. I've been using this cap for quite some time, and that way I can just really make sure all my screws have Loctite on them. Now take your hand drive and make sure you got them nice and snug. You don't want to make them too tight just because. Just let the Loctite do its job. Now you're going to take that outdrive, and this is where you can test to make sure that everything is freed up and good to go. And then also it lubes up the inside there if the guy that's putting them together doesn't. So there you go. So it's spinning nice. The 20 million is... There we go. So center diff is done, and that's ready to install into the truck. Check it out. Mod 1.5 1433. Check it out. Super nice. And voila, there we have it, guys. There are the diffs for the Skittles XRT. Last thing we got to do before we install them into the truck is just lube them up with udder butter. We'll just put a nice fat layer of udder butter all the way around there, And then these are kind of already pre-oiled from the factory, so that's good. Anyways, guys, I'm just going to give you guys a comparison on weight. These to the stock. And yeah, that's going to be the video. So, till the next time, check this out. So here's a front, or here's the rear. That's weighing in 8.3 ounces. And here's a stock, 6.8. So it's like 1.5 heavier. But let's do the rear, or the center, excuse me. So let's do the center. So there's a stock center, 6.3, fully upgraded GPM, 6.9. So it's heavier, it's not much heavier like the other ones, but there we go. Fully built, guys. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for the next part of the build. I think we're going to do the battery trays. I'm going to show you the battery tray install. We're just going to reinstall the ones that were in the old truck back into this new chassis, and we're going to rebuild the shocks. So I'm not sure how I'm going to do that yet, but stay tuned for that, guys. Thanks for watching. Do subscribe, leave me a thumbs up, leave me a comment, and I will catch you guys on the next one. Whoosh!